Hello, fellow pilots, and welcome back to RC with Adam. Today we're building the AOS 5.5 frame designed by Chris Rosser, and that's going to be the first part of this video, hopefully kind of a build guide for this frame, because at the moment there is none that I could find. And then I will save all of the opinions and discussion for after that. So let's get started. But right before we do, I want to say thanks to the sponsor of this video, which is PCBWay. If you're looking for some custom printed circuit boards, go check out PCBWay because they got you covered. They got all kinds of circuit boards and electronical components for your DIY projects. They can even assemble them, all the components, and put it on the board for you. That's pretty neat. But wait, there's more. PCBWay also offers rapid prototyping services, so you can get something 3D printed or made out of sheet metal or injection molded or CNC machined out of various materials. In fact, just a couple videos ago, I showed you guys a part that I had them make for me, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Oh my gosh, it works. So if you're interested in some rapid prototyping, go check out PCBWay. Link down in the description. All right, let's get on with this. Now, for assembly, we're going to need an M2 or a 2mm hex driver. I'm using my trusty Pittsburgh Pro right here. Now, take note of all of the hardware. I recommend you sort it by size and type. And I really appreciate that there's an extra bit of hardware for each component. That's really nice. So we have 9 standoffs. We only need 8. We have some M3 lock nuts, which I'm not actually sure where those are going to go. We have some very short M3 countersunk screws. We have some longer countersunk screws. Those are going to be on the top plate of the frame. We have the mid-length countersunk screws, and those are going to be on the bottom. And then we have the longest countersunk screws, and those are going to be, I think, for like if you want to use it in your 30x30 stack. And we'll talk about that when we start building. And then we have a whole bunch of motor screws for mounting the motors on the arms. For the carbon, we have the top plate right here. We have the bottom plate, and take note that for the bottom plate, you want the countersunk part, the countersunk holes in the middle, to be facing downward, and the 2 little notches in one end of the plate, that's going to be where your camera goes. So that's going to be the front. And then we have 2 camera plates. We have an X-shaped support plate for the middle. Then we have 2 plates for the very front and very back to hold the arms together. And then of course we have 4 arms. Okay, I'm going to start with my bottom plate here. So we have the countersunk holes facing downward, and the 2 notches are the front of the frame. And then I'm going to take an arm here, and the arm is going to go on the underside of the frame like this. And it's going to line up with these holes right here. So let's put that together. So we're going to need a medium length countersunk screw. We're going to need a bracket or one of these short little plates. We're going to put the screw through that plate, and then we're going to put the screw through the arm, the short side of the arm there. And then we're going to put that arm through the plate. And this could really be either end of the drone, but we'll just do the front right now. And then you can see the hole lines up right there. Now, just to keep this from moving around, I'm going to take a standoff. They're all the same length, by the way, and I'm going to just thread that on there and just get it kind of snug. So then this way, everything will stay in place. Now, at this point, I just want to point out that these holes for the 30x30 stack, for the flight controller stack, they get covered up by the arm assembly, or by the arm. So I don't really like that, I think. I'm not sure if it will be a problem, because there's quite a bit of friction, so we shouldn't get into the situation where we have this screw freely spinning when we're trying to tighten it. But I don't really like that you can't tighten that. You can't access that screw unless you remove the screw that's holding on the arm. The good thing is that it is countersunk, and I did decide to get the countersunk option for the top plate, but I'm pretty sure that no matter which option you get, these 4 holes for the 30x30 stack are always going to be countersunk, because I don't think you could put this frame together if they weren't. So just a little fun fact there. So if you have all of your electronics ready, I would definitely recommend installing your flight controller stack before finishing the assembly of the arms. I don't have my electronics ready, so right now I'm just going to leave the screws out. Actually, I'll tell you what, just for dramatic effect, let's leave the screws in. Okay, now with this arm lined up, I'm going to get the X-shaped bracing plate, and then I'm going to align it so that it will line up with all of the arm holes. And then we're going to let's get another mid-length screw right here and just put it through that whole stack. So through the bracing plate, through the arm, and then through the bottom plate, like that. And then we can put a standoff on here to tighten it down. There we go. So we have one arm completed, and I'll go through and tighten down all the screws with an actual driver once we get everything together here. Now to put on the other arm, the opposite arm, we just line it up and then slide it in place. And it's pretty easy when everything is loose. We'll get another mid-length screw. It's like the second from longest countersunk screw. We'll just line up all the plates and everything. Find the hole. There we go. Some of these holes are a little obstructed from the extra carbon fiber from the cutting process, so it's not a super clean finish as it comes from the factory. And we'll just put another standoff there to tighten it down, hold it in place. Now we just line up this arm with the bottom plate, put another screw through there. Oh shoot, see what I did? See, I forgot that if I was going to mount a stack with these long screws, I need to put that screw in there. So that's very important to remember. Okay, there we go. So we've got that through there. We'll put another standoff on there. Okay, cool. So now we have half of the arms done. So I did a silly there. I forgot that I should just put all of the screws in. To put all of the 30 by 30 mounting screws in, you know, if that's what I'm going to use, which I'm not sure if it is for this frame or not, but let's just pretend that it is. So you want to make sure you put all your 30 by 30 screws in there and then put the bottom plate to cover it, because you can't access them after you put the bottom plate on there. Now we'll just take the other arm here, and all these arms are identical, by the way, which is very nice. Very nice. We'll take another of the long screws, just kind of work it in there. Take another standoff, thread it on. There we go. And then here we can see, we get our other plate, our little bracing plate for the back. The bracing plates are identical as far as I can tell, so it doesn't matter if it's on the front or the back, but it has to be on either, or actually it has to be on both. We'll get another mid-length screw, countersunk screw, and put it through there. There we go. Cap that off with a standoff. Okay. And then we'll do the same for the very last arm. Let's get that last arm in there. This one we just kind of slide between those plates that are already there. Okay, we'll cap that off with a standoff. All right, last one. Through the base plate, or the bottom plate, or through the bottom bracket, through the arm, through the bottom plate, and one more standoff. And now is probably a good time to point out that we do have 3 20x20 mounting options. So we have 20x20 holes on the front and the back and the middle right there. And then I just decided for effect to put our 30x30 screws in place. We can at least see what that looks like. And then on the front, we have the 2 notches for the camera plates. So here we have the camera plate. This little notch is just going to go in this other little notch. Or it's not a notch, I guess it's like a cutout. Anyway, and then we'll put in this other side, like so. And then the top plate. Now, one interesting thing about the top plate, just to note, it has these little recessed parts in the carbon top plate. So that's kind of cool because it does seem to help keep the camera plate stiffer and from moving. But we'll have to see if that actually works. But I thought that was a nice feature. So orientation for the top plate, you want the countersunk screws facing upwards, and you want the little rounded cutout facing forward. And we just kind of need to wiggle those in place. Yeah, just kind of jiggle it all until it comes in place. Okay, cool. So now all of our standoffs line up. And so for this, it looks like we could use either these very short screws, or we could use the somewhat longer screws. I'm going to use the somewhat longer screws because I want to have a bit more threads in my standoffs. But so we'll use these guys and just thread those down, and I'll tighten them all down once we get everything threaded and in place. And of course, you know, if you're building your quad, you're not going to put your top plate on until, you know, you're almost done building it. But I'll just put it all together so we can look at it. We have all of these countersunk screws tightened down. It looks very nice. I just love how it's just flush. You don't have those button head screws sticking up. But the front is not countersunk, and that is because the intention is to use these button head screws. It comes with 3 button head screws, and you only need 2, and those are going to go on the front standoffs. And the reason for this is it's expected that you will mount a GoPro on the front. So you wouldn't want to have countersink the carbon because you don't want to use countersunk screws for mounting the GoPro, because you will use either the button head screws or maybe even a washer, because typically you'd use a TPU 3D printed GoPro mount, and you'd want to distribute the force of the screw to hold down the mount as effectively as possible. Now, you'll also notice that we have some holes back here, and there are no standoffs, and that is for the GoPro mounting as well. So this is a 30 by 30 or 32 by 32 square for the 4 forwardmost holes in the frame, and then I guess that's what these M3 lock nuts are for. That is my estimation. So I guess there aren't any screws provided for the actual GoPro mounting unless these motor screws. Are there enough motor screws? Mine came with 18 cap head motor screws, or motor mounting screws, but I think you could use those for the GoPro mounting as well. Depends on how thick your mount is for the GoPro. That could work though. I'm not totally sure, to be honest with you, what the intended use of the M3 screws is, or why there are the number that there are. But I mean, I've got plenty of M3 screws, so that's no big deal. But if you only had the frame components, then that's what you could do to mount the GoPro. A couple things to note is you could use some Loctite, some low strength or medium strength Loctite, just like a tiny bit on some of these threads, but I wouldn't personally. That could be very, very difficult, especially the top plate. You don't want to Loctite the top plate because you're probably taking that on and off the most. So I wouldn't do that. Chris Rosser also recommends applying grease, some type of grease. I can't remember which type, but some type of heavy grease to the connections on the frame for like ultimate vibration dampening, I suppose. But to be honest with you, I am not at that level where I could really even appreciate that much vibration dampening, although I do appreciate the idea and I do appreciate the design here. And that is partially why I bought this frame. Because, I mean, look, you can't argue with triangles. And this thing has got 4 triangles. It's got, well, it basically has 4, 1 for each arm, and then it has basically 2 big triangles. And, I mean, come on. Who doesn't love triangles? Really? Really? The Egyptians love triangles, you know? And look what happened to them. Maybe that's a bad example. Anyway, so that's the extra hardware that I'm left with. So there you have it. That is the assembly. Not too difficult, actually, even though it does seem kind of complicated, but I really like that this is the discussion part, by the way, so a lot of this is just my opinion, but we'll kind of talk about the design and why I chose this design. And I don't know, maybe it's trash. I know I just saw a video by Mr. Steele, and he was kind of trash talking the AOS 5, but this is the 5.5. So this is a newer frame, actually. Similar design, especially with the truss style arms. But anyway, let me answer a question that you might have. Does this circle, or does this cutout for the AOS, which stands for Art of Science, by the way, will that fit an XT60? And the answer is yes, it will. So you can put an XT60 connector right through there, which is very good. And there are several large cutouts that you could run. You can't fit an XT60. Well, you can almost fit it. You can just barely fit an XT60. You might be able to like jam it in there, but you could definitely run your battery lead, the cables, through here if you wanted to. I mean, I probably wouldn't, but you can definitely run it through this big O cutout in the back. I really like that it has, as an option, I decided to get the countersunk screws on the top of the frame, so then you can put your battery on there basically however you want, and you're not going to run into the button head screws. Although I will say, these screws are actually pretty far out, like out from the center of the frame, so you probably actually could put a battery on there and that would not even be a problem. So I realize that now. I still like the countersunk screw heads. I think it just looks better. Let's see how much this weighs. It weighs 127 grams, and just to note, the 2 front camera plates are kind of wiggly. Now, once you put a camera in there and screw them together, they will become tight, and they should that tension should hold everything together. On the actual machining, so there are some sharp edges. There is chamfering on these arms, not a ton of chamfering, very small amounts of chamfering, and but not on the top or bottom plates. So they're sharp, but they won't cut you, I don't think. Like, they're not sharp enough to cut you. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video and discussion of this. Let me know if you'd like to see more about this frame. I will be building this and seeing how it actually works. Blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you have questions or comments leave those down in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. Keep flying. Have a good day, and I will see you again on the next one.
We get bars in our goggles that show